Breaking tonight, the 2016 GOP presidential field is officially taking shape as Fox News announces the final lineup for this Thursday night's Republican primary debate live from Cleveland, Ohio. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Kelly File. I'm Megyn Kelly. 48 hours from right now, we will be together about to start this thing, and now we know who's in it. The 17 Republicans competing for a spot in this, the first Republican presidential debate, are now broken into two groups. Those who will appear at 9 p.m. Eastern and those who will be participating in a separate debate just a few hours earlier, beginning at 5 p.m. here on Fox. In the later group, the 9 p.m. group, is the top of the Republican field right now, including Donald Trump, who polled at nearly double that of his nearest opponent recently, and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush, who came in second based on an average of the 5 most recent national polls. Not far behind, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker in the number 3 position. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, along with pediatric neurosurgeon Ben Carson and Texas Senator Ted Cruz. Cruz was actually tied with his Senate colleague. Florida Republican Marco Rubio's in it, while Kentucky Senator Rand Paul came in at 8th. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie also earning a spot in the top 10, along with Ohio Governor John Kasich, who took the 10th place spot at the last minute. Rick Perry had held it. Kasich had beat out the former Texas governor, Mr. Perry, who now leads the group of 7 presidential candidates who we will be debating here on Fox at 5 p.m. Eastern. Governor Perry's followed by former presidential contender Rick Santorum, former now again, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, and the GOP's only female candidate this time around, Carly Fiorina. Rounding out the group with some of the lowest numbers we've seen, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, former New York Governor George Pataki, and former Virginia Governor Jim Gilmore. Tonight, we are joined by 2 of the men who will be sharing with the big group, Senator Ted Cruz and Governor Mike Huckabee. But first, we will speak with Fox News contributor and former chief presidential speechwriter Mark Thiessen, along with the host of Fox News' Media Buzz, Howie Kurtz. So it's an exciting time. I mean, 48 hours from now, those 2 guys that we just showed you, along with 8 others, will be facing off with yours truly, Bret Baier and Chris Wallace, in what will really be an important stage setter for the rest of this campaign. And last night, Mark, they did so in a different kind of forum, where before a New Hampshire group, they went one by one, and for a series of 5-minute intervals, just sort of spoke in response to a question. Your take, first of all, on what we saw last night and what it telegraphs to us about what we're likely to see on Thursday.
Well, first of all, I thought it was really interesting that the coverage of last night's forum was dominated by the one guy who didn't show up, Donald Trump. The big news, I mean, even not showing up, he's the center of attention. I mean, the big news yesterday was that in New Hampshire, he's at 26%, which is double his 2 closest rivals, Jeb Bush and Scott Walker. So he won by not even showing up. But it was an interesting insight into some of the candidates and their how fleet they are on their feet in preparing for your question.
It's like the movie War Games at the end. Joshua, the only winning move is not to play. Trump figured it out before the others figured it out, and he didn't show up and he won. Howie, the takeaway, you tell me if I'm wrong, just reading the write-ups about what we saw last night, was Cruz, calm, cool, and collected, and Jeb Bush, wow, he got hit. He got hit by a lot of people on his performance. Was it so bad?
Well, a really bad moment for Jeb Bush, in my view, was when he stumbled over a question involving the name Bush. You would think by this time, Megyn, he would be expecting and have that down. But look, the media are not going to stop asking that question. He'd be the 3rd straight Republican president.
I'm going to let you finish your thought, but I want to show the audience what you're talking about. Here he is trying to sort of defend the Bush family name. Here it is.
My dad is probably the most perfect man alive, so it's very hard for me to be critical of him. In fact, I got a T-shirt that says at the Jeb swag store that says, my dad's the greatest man alive. If you don't like it, I'll take you outside.
Go ahead, Howie.
No, that wasn't a sterling moment. You know, some candidates were road testing their lines, but overall, Megyn, it struck me as a kind of an exhibition game. And given the performance of some of these candidates, we can get into some of the other ones, they had better up their game before the season opener on Fox on Thursday night.
Mark Thiessen, let me ask you about John Kasich, because he made it into the 10th spot in the primetime debate on Fox. It's not the be-all and the end-all, because we have a 5 o'clock debate, too. But it's an important spot, because obviously the most eyeballs are likely to take place at 9 p.m. It's a good hour of TV. What can I say? And so Governor Kasich last night was in rare form and brought home the following message, which we may hear more of on Thursday. Listen.
Sometimes, Jack, our problem is people don't necessarily think we get them. But you know, thank God that my father carried mail on his back.
And that's part of his appeal as the everyman.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's one of the most interesting candidates to emerge recently. He's been overshadowed a little bit by the Trump juggernaut, but this is a guy he's a governor with a very strong record, and he's an everyman. He's came from humble roots. I think we could do well to have our nominee be, one, a governor with executive experience, and two, someone who's not a millionaire or a billionaire, but someone who can relate to ordinary people. It's kind of like the area that Scott Walker has been trying to carve out for himself with the Coles voters, and Kasich's trying to contend with him for that space in the electorate.
That's exactly right. Those two are with the same message. And then we saw Ben Carson, Howie, with a message. He's mentioned the S word many times, and he mentioned it again last night. What am I referring to? Watch here. Ben Carson. This is number 3.
A lot of people say, you know, the guy who made $10 billion and he paid $1 billion, he's still got $9 billion left. He can't do that. We got to take more of his money. That's called socialism.
Not backing down from a claim he's made many times. Some people find that very controversial that he mentions that as an approach he thinks the president takes. He doesn't seem to be worried about it.
Well, when you consider that Ben Carson is the other major non-politician in the race, Donald Trump has really taken up a lot of the space that ordinarily would go to Dr. Carson. It's pretty amazing that he's finished in the top 10, given that he's never run for any public office before. But Trump has so dominated the field that he's frozen the field. So if you're Ben Carson, Rubio, Cruz, Paul, John Kasich, who will make it in his home state of Ohio, you need in this debate to create a moment, not necessarily a zinger, Megyn, but something that attracts attention, because all of these other candidates who have been pushed down to 4, 5, 6% are really having trouble breaking through in the summer of Trump.
Well, speaking of a moment, this happened today, not last night, but boy, did it receive a lot of attention. Watch Governor Christie.
I'm a Catholic, but I've used birth control, and not just the rhythm method, okay?
Keep it rolling, keep it rolling, keep it rolling, and let's just take a look at the man who I think it was a writer on Media today has captured the nation's attention as the everyman. He spoke for all of us. Let's do it again. Watch.
But
watch
I've used birth control, and not just the rhythm method, okay? So, you know, my church has a teaching against birth control.
Man,
does that
he
make
does
me an
speak
awful
for all of
Catholic?
us. Mark Thiessen, I ask you whether this is the kind of moment the candidates should be seeking.
Yeah, Chris Christie's campaign theme is telling it like it is. I think he should change it to telling us too much.
TMI.
And it's a shame because he had a great performance the other night. He really did well in the candidate forum, and he's oversharing, shall we say?
He loosened up, He loosened up a little too much. All right, now let me ask you this: before we go, Howie, how big a deal do you think this Thursday night debate is?
To use a Donald Trump word, huge.
Huge.
I mean, I've never seen such interest at this relatively early stage of the campaign in a single debate. A lot of that is driven by Trump. This will be the Trump show. The headlines will be, how did Trump do and how did everybody else do? But because there are so many candidates, and these are the top 10, you can have a moment where you get a lot of positive attention, or as we just saw, and Governor Christie said, am I washed up? Repeating the negative premise of a question, you can get negative attention. And I think, there are other debates that will follow, but this one is going to set the tone for who can be seen as a plausible president and who can compete with the Donald.
Mark Thiessen, even President Obama came out today and told Democrats they need to watch this debate. Is it that important? I mean, I don't mean to undersell us and the Fox News, but do you believe it is that important?
It is, absolutely. It's the start of the campaign. I mean, all of this has been gearing up. We've seen the rise of Donald Trump and all the rest of it, but now he's going to be tested. I don't think you're going to let him get away with generalities on Thursday night, Megyn. And the fact is, he is the front runner. He's way ahead of the pack, but the political graveyard is filled with the bodies of people who stumbled in debates.
It's fascinating. Can't wait. Going out to Cleveland tomorrow. We're having our all-day debate meeting tomorrow, and we'll put the bells and whistles on it on Thursday, and then it's go time. Great to see you guys.
See you,
Same
Megan.
here.
And in case you hadn't heard, the Fox News GOP primary debate, we're partnering with Facebook, is Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be moderating along with Brett Baer and Chris Wallace. And then, of course, stay tuned for the real show. And the debate thing's good, too. The Kelly File, which will be live at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Live from Cleveland with complete analysis. We've got Britt Hume, we got Charles Krauthammer, we got them all. The first big test of the 2016 election season. Well, when the critics were done writing up their report cards on last night's candidate forum in New Hampshire, they gave very high marks to one man in particular. Senator Ted Cruz is that man, and he will join us next on his strategy for Thursday. Plus, new fallout after a federal judge demands that Hillary Clinton come clean on the record under oath over her private email server. Governor Mike Huckabee is also here. He will weigh in on Mrs. Clinton's ongoing email scandal and his decision to not take part in last night's New Hampshire forum. Plus, new fallout from the arrest and death of Sandra Bland. As Mark Eiglarsh and Arthur Aidala join us on what a new lawsuit her family has now filed against the police who arrested her but did not kill her means for this case.
I am still confident in the fact that she knew enough about Jesus that she would not take herself out.